everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to talk about the poem London by Samuel Johnson. Samuel Johnson was an essayist, a biographer, a critic of the 18th century England. He is best known for the modern form of dictionary which was published in 1755. The time Samuel Johnson was writing was known as the neoclassical period. This neoclassical period is also known as the Augustan period. It alludes to the Roman Augustan period when the reason and logical development thrived. If we look into the works of Samuel Johnson, we see that he has written a bunch of works of different genre. His poem London was published in 1738. In 1749, his Vanity of Human Wishes was published. In the same year, he also published Irene. His dictionary in the English language was published in 1755. He started a periodical called The Idler, which continued from 1758 to 1760. He recorded the biographies of several poets in his Lives of the Poet, which was published in 1779. The Stage Licensing Act of 1737 was there when Samuel Johnson was writing. This act made all the theatre managers submit their plays to the government beforehand in order to be approved. This very act thwarted Johnson's attempt to become a playwright himself. This we see is government's attempt to choke or to suppress the public voice. During the time of Samuel Johnson, the governor was Robert Walpole. And Samuel Johnson believed that the filthy and corrupted condition of London was due to Robert Walpole's mismanagement, and his poem London itself became a part of the opposition of the government by Robert Walpole. So as I previously mentioned, this poem was published in 1738. Johnson published this poem anonymously, and when this was published, it created a stir among the public, and that made James Boswell to record enthusiastically that here is an unknown poet greater even than Pope. And who was James Boswell? James Boswell was the biographer of Samuel Johnson. This very poem was an imitation of Juvenal's third satire, and Juvenal was a Roman satirist. Juvenal's third satire was focused on society and culture. In this poem, Juvenal imagines a poet friend, Umbricius, who had enough of the Roman society and who was leaving from Rome to the countryside in order to have a better life. This poem explores Johnson's perception of imitation through the idea of a poet. And secondly, we see Johnson's mastery in placing imagery in his attempt of writing in heroic couplet. And thirdly, we see that Johnson dexterously employs various instances in order to provide a political and cultural critique of his own age. As I mentioned before, this poem is written in heroic couplet. And heroic couplet are two lines rhyming together written in iambic pentameter. Whereas Juvenal presented a satire of the time of 2nd century CE, Johnson provides a satire of the destruction and degeneration of the city of London. London is an imitation poem of 263 lines. So we see that Johnson is not merely translating Juvenal's third satire. He is actually updating it, finding modern parallels to the Latin original. So here we see that in this poem, Rome is replaced by London and Umbricius is replaced by Thales and Tuscan is replaced by Wales. So he presents a scene to the reader. Here he presents a person called Thales. Many scholars think that this Thales is a reference to Richard Savage, one of the friends of Samuel Johnson. So this particular person, Thales, is exhausted by the filth, crowds and noise, as well as the difficulties of making a living as a writer in London, and now he wants to leave this place and go to Wales in order to have a better life. So in that context, London is an escapist narrative in which Thales chooses to flee this huge metropolis city to avoid the vices that comes with the modern city life. He thinks that he will find solace in the countryside. Before we begin the poem, we have to look at the epitaph of the poem. This epitaph is taken from Juvenal's satire, and this means who can endure this modern city, who is so iron-willed to bear it. So this epitaph is actually in Latin, and what I said was the English translation of that. So let us look into the poem. Though grief and fondness in my breast rebel, when injured, Thales bids the town farewell. Yet still my calmer thoughts his choice commend. I praise the hermit, but regret the friend. Resolved at length, from vice and London far, to breathe in distant fields of purer air, and fixed on Cambria's solitary shore, give to St. David one true Briton more. So in the first 4 lines we see that there is a grief in the speaker's heart because London has been deteriorated by the ruling government. At the same time, he also shows a fondness for Thales in his heart, and he says that why his friend is sad inside, and he asks for farewell to him from him. So he is in dilemma concerning whether he should be happy or he should be sad. So when he thinks in his calm mind, he comes to the point that he should praise his friend for his foresighting, for leaving this land of corruption, but at the same time he must regret that his friend is leaving him alone to suffer here. So his friend is leaving this place and going to a place which is very far from London and is free from corruption, and where this air is pure. So it seems that the speaker's friend is going to Cambria, which is the ancient name for the city of Wales. So he is leaving for Cambria, where he can pay homage to St. David, like a true English descendant. So St. David is a patron saint of Wales, and in Juvenal, the narrator's friend sets for Cumae. Cumae is situated in near Naples in southern Italy, and that is the home of Cumaean prophets. So let us move on to the next stanza. For who would leave unbribed Hibernia's land, or change the rock of Scotland for the strand? There none are swept by sudden fate away, but all whom hunger spares with age decay. Here malice repine, ancient conspire, and now a rebel's rage, now a fire. Their ambush here relentless ruffians lay, and here the fell attorney prowls for prey. Here falling houses thunder on your head, and here a female atheist talks you dead. The speaker says that everyone would like to leave London unless they are bribed to stay at this very place, and else they would prefer to live in Scotland, and Hibernia is a reference to Ireland. There we see the word Strand, and that is the busy street in London, and this is close to Johnson's house. So the speaker says that one will not die untimely in London unless one suffers starvation, and there is a strong possibility of this because there is a lot of malice, hypocrisies and conspiracy. He says that in the city there are a lot of ruffians who can come and seize others' property, and who can lose their property to the sudden outbreak of fire. And the worst case is that the cruel lawyers, and they would act like wild creatures just to latch on their prey. And this prey is the client of the lawyers. And here this city is so congested that the houses are very close to each other, and they seem that these houses would fall on their head. And these people in this city have no faith in God and they can mislead any person. Let us move on to the next stanza. While Thales wait, the wherry that contains of dissipated wealth of small remains. On Thames bank, in silent thought we stood, where Greenwich smiles upon the silver flood. Struck with the seed that gave Eliza birth, we kneel and kiss the consecrated earth. In pleasing dreams the blissful age renew, and call Britannia's glories back to view. Behold her cross triumphant to the main, the gird of commerce and the dread of Spain. Ere Muscoret's debauched excise oppressed, on English honour grew a standing jest. So the speaker says that he and Thales both wait on the bank of the river for a rowing boat to carry Thales to the sea vessel. And while waiting there, Thales is holding the small amount of money that will help him make a living there. So the speaker states that by standing near the bank of the Thames River silently, they can watch a glimpse of Greenwich State. And maybe this is a reflection on the water. And this place, this Greenwich village, was the place where Queen Elizabeth was born. So they seized this opportunity to kneel and pay homage because this Queen Elizabeth was the ideal ruler of London. He says that it was a beautiful time when she was reigning the country. She was glorious in her reign, and thinking of this time makes the speaker very proud. So the Queen's name reminds the speaker of the defeat of Spanish Armada in 1588. So here we see by her cross, the speaker refers to the large red cross of the white ensign hoisted by English Royal Navy. He points at the rivalry between the English and Spanish Navy regarding the supremacy on trade and commerce. It was believed that England was afraid of facing the Spanish Navy. However, in 1739, Walpole declared a war against them. The speaker says that people in the present time are playing a bad masquerade. Their thinking is degraded by such incitement of immorality. Johnson attacks Walpole by saying that the government is too selfish and has increased the rate of taxes. Let us move on to the next stanza. A transient calm the happy scenes bestow, and for a moment lull the sense of woe. At length awaking, with contemptuous frown, indignant Thales eyes the neighbouring town. He says that the people of England have forgotten the victory led by Queen Elizabeth I, and they are full of sense of woe and hypocrisy. Thereafter, Thales is looking forward to the country he is going to. It reminds himself of London and the days spent there. Sinceforth, he cries, in these degenerate days, wants even the cheap reward of empty praise. In crushed walls, devote to vice and gain, since unrewarded science toils in vain. The Thales speaks and remembers all the days he has lived in London city, and he says that nobody wants to get any cheap reward for empty praise. So none want to return to those cursed walls behind which people seamlessly commit vices and only think of personal growth. Those who devote themselves in science, art and knowledge are wasting their time. So there is none to recognize their effort and hard work. The speaker is hopeful that one day everything is going to be fine, but his hope doubles his distress. Every moment he spends in this city lessens his hope. Grant me, kind heaven, to find some happier place, where honesty and sense are no disgrace. Some pleasing bank where verdant oysters play, some peaceful vale with nature's paintings grey. Some peaceful vale with nature's paintings gay, where once the harassed Briton found repose, and safe in poverty defy his foes. Some secret cell, yea, powers indulged give, let live here for has learned to live. The speaker does not know how long he can remain steady. So he prays to the Almighty to grant him his wish to find happier place. And the speaker wants to go to this place where honesty reigns and common sense is no disgrace. So here we see Johnson depicts a beautiful picture of a serene rustic life, and the depiction of a rural and purer landscape creates a contrast with the harsh city life that is mentioned. According to the speaker, he would like to visit a pleasing bank where the green willows, like here the mentioned verdant voicers, play. And some peaceful valley might be there where nature's gay paintings soothe the eyes. Let us move on. Here we let those reign whom pensions can incite to vote a patriot black and a courtier white, explain their country's dear-bought rights away, and plead for pirates in the face of day. With slavish tenets, taint our poisoned youth, and lend a lie the confidence of truth. So when the speaker thinks of London, it distresses him. He wants to leave this place and with no heavy weight on his back. And all this time he has spent here with force, making it all in vain. And this place is for the people whom the pensions can incite, where these people are paid to live here. Tale says that these people who live here, who would get pension from the government for not opposing it. So they are such people who can make a patriot a scapegoat and a courtier feel proud despite him being fake or vivacious. This is a government that bribes its people and is leading them on the wrong path. Hales here tells his friend about the followers of the government. He describes them as people who can take the other people's rights away. This government is not a people's government because it is pleading the pirates. And these pirates will make this country hollow one day. These people can lie so well that it can look like a truth. And they will make all the other people slaves if they do not oppose them. So let such raise palaces and manors by. Collect a tax and farm a lottery. And groveling eunuchs fill a licensed stage and lull to servitude a thoughtless age. And so Thales in his anger says that let all those people live in this place and make palaces made from taxes and lottery collected in the wrong method. These taxes can be called as plunder because it is almost looted from the commoners. We see he mentions the licensing servitude because in 1737 most theatres were given to the opera singers, and a licensing servitude act was passed in favor of this. Thales is saying that the people in power can do anything because no one can stop them from doing what they think is right. So no one can refrain them in any manner. Heroes, proceed. What bounds your pride shall hold? What check restrain your thirst of power and gold? Behold our fame, our wealth, our lives your own. So he asks the people, the heroes, that where their pride is gone and what restrain their thirst for power and thirst for gold. And he wants the people to look at their own fame, the previous fame they had and their wealth they had and the lives that they are living, what kind of lives they are living. To such a groaning nation spoils are given when public crimes inflame the wrath of heaven. He says that all their plundered money are from the colonies that has been taken by these rulers, and now they can live in great wealth and fame because no one is going to rebel against them. And because of these things, one day public crimes will fill the pot of goodness in heaven and will cross their limit. But what, my friend, what hope remains for me, who start at theft and blush at perjury. So then he says to his friend that there is no hope for him to live there because there are such people who do a lot of thievery and after being caught they tell lies in court. Who scarce forbear, though Britain's court he sing, to pluck a titled poet borrowed wing. A statesman's logic unconvinced can hear and dare to slumber over the gazetteer. Despise a fool in half his pension dressed, and strive in vain to laugh at haste jest. So he says that he cannot tolerate these things. There is not a single hope for him to live in this suffocating place. Neither can he be convinced by any diplomat, nor he can be convinced by any poet to live in this place. And he cannot be overwhelmed by any of them. The speaker is not one of them who can be bribed, and nor does he have the power to go against the daily gazetteer. It was the paper that contained the apologies for the court. Moving on, others with softer smiles and subtler art can sap the principles or taint the heart. With more address lovers note convey, or bribe a virgin's innocence away. The speaker says that he cannot be like those orators such as John Orator Henley who preach in their own house to be praised by the hypocrites in government. And Thales cannot cut his principles. He says to his friend that there are such types of people in this city who can bribe a lover or a virgin to take their innocence away. Well, may they rise, while I, whose rustic tongue never knew to puzzle right or varnish wrong, spurned as a beggar, dreaded as a spy, live unregarded, unlamented, die. The Thales tells his friend that those leaders can rise by their sweet tongue. In contrast, he has a rustic and innocent self. He does not know how to deceive someone and do something wrong. And he cannot accept to be a beggar or to be a spy. Neither can he live a life with no regard, nor can die without being lamented. Moving on to the next stanza. For what but social guilt the friend endears, who shares Orglio's crimes? For what but social guilt the friend endears, nor sell for gold what gold could never buy. The peaceful slumber, self-approving day, unsullied fame and conscience never gay. So he says that these people do not have an ounce of social guilt, and they are not endeared by social guilt but are racketeers, that they do not let their future get affected by it. The speaker alludes to Origlio, an imaginary character successful in racketeering. Thales says that the people who are bribed by the government are inclined towards Marlborough. And John Churchill, the first Duke of Marlborough, is referred here. This John Churchill had a reputation for avarice. Likewise, George Villiers, the second Duke of Buckingham, squandered a vast fortune. The speaker tells his friend to turn his eyes from the glittering bribe. Some things are of greater value than gold, such as peaceful slumber and self-approving day, and unsullied fame, and ever-gay conscience. But all these things cannot be understood by the people who are living in this city of London. But Thales understood it, and hence he is leaving this place. And all these advices he gives to his friend, that is the narrator. Moving on to the next stanza. The cheated nation's happy favorite see, mark whom the great caress, who frown on me. London, the needy villain's general's home, the common shore of Paris and of Rome. With eager thirst by folly or by fate, sucks in drages of each corrupted state. I forgive my transports to the theme like this. I cannot bear a French metropolis. So those who have become the favorite of the nation are now spending their days here peacefully. And they are the real villains and enemies of London. And they have made it their comfortable home. And these people are much worse and smelly than the common shore. Their eager thirst will never stop, and they will quench their lust either by fate or by folly. So they shall lead the country towards corruption, and Thales cannot tolerate such rules and does not want to live in a place similar to French metropolis. Moving on to the next stanza. Illustrious Edward, from the realms of day, the land of heroes and saints survey, nor hope the British lineament of tress, the rusty grandeur of the surly grace, but lost in thoughtless ease and empty show, behold the warrior dwindled to a bow. Sense, freedom, piety defined a way of France, the mimic, and Spain, the prey. According to Thales, London once used to be the land of heroes, and where once King Edward III, who was also a successful commander, reigned and initiated the 100 Years of War against France. London used to be the land of heroes and saints. It had its grandeur once upon a time and used to be graceful, which was also praised by other people. But now the people of London has become thoughtless, and Edward's victory has dwindled. It is far from its sense of freedom and piety. Now England imitates France, which won. They mimic the people who are living there. All that at home no more can beg or steal, or like gibbet better than a wheel, hissed from the stage or hooted from the court. Their air, their dress, their politics import. Obsequious, artful, voluble and gay, on Britain's fond credulity they prey. No gainful trade their industries can escape. They sing, they dance, clean shoes, or cure a club. All sciences of fasting Monsieur knows, and bid them go to hell, then hell he goes. These people have been dragged from their past glory, and people from other countries think that English people are no longer strong, hence there is no need to survive them. And people of England are no longer artful and voluble, and fluent and flexible. And these bad rulers have made their country weaker in comparison to all the foreign powers. And because of them, London industry cannot trade anymore the way it used to do before. Everyone knows that they have tired their science industry, and forgetting their real duties for their nation, they are now singing, dancing, cleaning shoes, or curing a clap. And that's why sciences are compared to fasting Monsieur. And the speaker ironically remarks that the rulers bid sciences go to hell he goes. What avails it that from slavery far I drew the breath of life in English air, was early taught of Britain's right to prize, and lisped the tale of Henry's victories. If the gulled conquerors receives the chain, and what their armies lost, their cringes gain. He says that if these people keep on tolerating, they are not very far from slavery. He says that he saw how the Britons fought with Saxons, and he did take a breath in the air when King Henry V defeated the French. King Henry V was the conqueror of conquerors and was very down to earth. Let us move on to the next stanza. Studious to please and ready to submit, the supple Gaul was born a parasite, still to his interest true wherever he goes, with bravery worth his lavish tongue bestows. In every face 1,000 graces shine, from every tongue flows a harmony divine. These arts in vain our rugged natives try, strain out with faltering diffidence a lie, and get a kick for awkward flattery. He said that Henry V used to forgive people very easily, but when he was outraged, no one could stop him. And he had his wit and was worthy of his bravery. So according to the speaker, Henry was honey-lipped but strong, and under his rule people were happy. So Johnson criticizes the contemporary art forms, and he talks about 1,000 graces shown on every face during the King Henry's reign. And at that time, a divine harmony existed in the country. The same time was reflected in everyone's tongue and reference to their spoken words. Then the speaker starts satirizing the English artists. English artists tried to imitate the foreign land trend in vain, and they received awkward flattery from the commoners and the rulers. Let us move on to the next stanza. Besides, with justice, this discerning age admires their wondrous talents for the stage. Well may they venture on the mimic art, who play from morn to night a borrowed part. Practiced their master's notions to embrace, repeat his maxims, and reflect his face. With every wild absurdity comply, and view each object with another's eye. To shake with laughter air the jest they hear, to pour at will the counterfeit tear, and their patron hints the cold or heat, to shake in dog days, in December sweat. These artists who borrowed from the foreign land, who mimic from the foreign land, their talent on the stage, but they venture on imitating others' art and perform the borrowed part, and it means the lack of originality and creativity. But they are still praised by the rulers. So they do not look at the things with their own eyes. This shows also the lack of originality. So people followed those in power and not only lacked any original thought, but also their emotions were controlled by someone else, and they lacked any common sense. And that's why they did not even know when to laugh or when to cry. They are so timid that they start trembling in dog days and keep sweating in December if their master had asked them to. Let us move on to the next part. How, when competitors like this content, can surely virtue hope to fix a friend? Slaves that with serious impudence beguile, and lie without a blush, without a smile. Exalt each trifle, every vice adore. Your taste in snuff, your judgment in a whore. Can bulbous eloquence applaud and swear? He gropes his breeches with a monarch's air. These spineless men can make one believe their lies at the very first glance. In the city, they celebrate all these vices, and the judgment of a new king can lead them to their death. But his judgment cannot be appreciated as a stutterous speech. And he is groping or breaching people, promoting obscene art. And these people who are bribed by the rulers are fake. Moving on. For arts like this preferred, admired, caressed, they first invade your table, then your breast. Explore your secret with insidious art. Watch the weak hour and ransack all the heart. Then soon your ill-paced confidence repay, commands your lord and govern or betray. So these people who are bribed by the rulers are fake. So what they do? First they invade one's mind and get all their secrets, and then they stab them in their heart. And they influence other people to follow the bad rulers. They also rob one person of his confidence to go outside. By numbers here, from shame or censure free, all crimes are safe, but hated poverty. This only this the rigid law pursues. This only this provokes the snarling muse. The sober treader at a tattered cloak, awake from his dream and labors for a joke. With a brisker air, the silken courtier gaze, and turn the varied taunt 1,000 ways. Of all the griefs that harass the distressed, sure of the bitter is a scornful jest. Fate never wounds more deep the generous heart than when a blockhead's insult points the dart. We see that several crimes are committed in this place daily, but nothing is as shameful as the poverty. And the only shame here is the shame of being poor. But the Lord does not pay any attention to this. It only cares for the people who do not object to them and who worship them like a muse. Those people who work hard, they become a joke, and they don't have money to buy some clothes. And when these fake courtiers see them, they make fun of them and look down upon them. And they taunt them every day in thousands of ways. There says that of all the harassment to these innocent people, the trickling, scornful and taunting jest words make them feel bitter and worse. And their hearts are wounded by the scornful comments and it is really difficult for them to heal. And these hypocrites and blockheads insult them by saying that these people are poor and it is seldom that they had a place reserved for them in heaven. These people, they say that God even does not want to waste a seat for these poor people in heaven. So these people, they can live on no secret island and they are not even able to claim their part anywhere because Spain had laid them to some of the British colonies. So Thales urges the public and says that they should rise against this rude oppression. This mournful truth is everywhere confessed. The slow rises worth by poverty depressed. But here more slow were all the slaves to gold, where looks are merchandise and smiles are sold, where won by bribes, by flatteries implored, the groom retails the favors of his lord. Thales first says that all these people should rise against this rude oppression, but then accepting the truth, he says that they cannot rise rapidly because they are distressed by poverty. And he says that in London the process is slower and everyone is enslaved by gold or wealth. It seems as if materialism brought their souls into a good bargain. So here people's behavior is controlled by money and the pensioners have sold people's rest for their good. So their smiles are fake and their looks are like merchandise. In this way, Johnson criticizes the people of his time. Thayer says that the pensioners have been bribed by the present rulers and they have become flatterers. And the only thing they do is to please the ruler and not to serve the country. The flatterers should listen to the public and their problems. But he says that if they go through every street, they will find problems faced by common people. And he uses hyperbolic language to emphasize the distress of commoners ignored by the rulers. He says, "But hark, the affrighted crowd tumultuous cry, roll through the streets and thunder to the skies, raised from some pleasing dream of wealth and power, some pompous palace or some blissful bower. Aghast your start and scarce with asking sight, sustained the approaching fire, tremendous light. Swift from pursuing honors take your way, and leave your little all to flames a prey. Then through the world a wretched vagrant roam, and where can starving merit find a home? In vain your mournful narrative disclose, while all neglect and most insult your woes." By pointing at the rulers, Thales says that they have been raised from their sight and they have gained wealth and beautiful palaces. And after gaining wealth, they look down upon the public, and he urges the rulers to look at the bad and tremendous situation of the people and the things they are going through. The flatterer's sight will be aching if they look into the circumstances of the common people. And now he advises the rulers that they should take the public's horrors away and leave them a sense of security. They should give food to one who is starving instead of leading him to death. So the speaker says the flatterers are not going to listen to this advice and are not going to apply it to themselves. So most of this advice is going to be in vain. They will neglect it and they are going to insult this speech. Should heaven's just boards Origilio's wealth confound and spread his flaming palace on the ground. Swift over the land the dismissal rumors flies and public mourning pacify the skies. He says that on a clear day people will know of this racketeer prisoner's wealth and they will become surprised by this knowledge. And they only discuss this among themselves, and due to which it became a rumor and spread like a flame. It will work like the salt works on the wounds on the public heart, and they will only mourn without doing anything. And these racketeers should not keep all their wealth to themselves, but also should spread it like the light of heaven. But heaven's just boards will burn all they have piled by deceiving. The Laurent tribes in servile verse relate how virtue wars with persecuting fate. With well-feigned gratitude, the pension's band refund the plunder of the baker's land. See, while he builds, the gaudy vessels come and crowd with sudden wealth the rising dome. The price of boroughs and souls restore and raise his treasures higher than before. Now blessed with all the bubbles of the great and polish the marble and shining plate. Origilio sees the golden pile aspire, and hope from angry heaven another fire. Thales tells his friend that the people who are looking honorable and proud in front of other people are actually not like that. And they are seizing people of their fate. So what they are doing is contemptible. They should pay their gratitude towards the public by refunding the property they have seized. While building their palace, the ruler should also build houses for the people. But instead of doing this, they only make money for themselves by selling or buying boroughs. They have made their treasures higher than before, and their palaces are built of polished marble, and the symbolic Origilio does not seem to be pleased, though his golden pile aspires. Here, those hedonistic people want to make more money and they will not be satisfied. Couldst thou design the park and play content for their banks of Severn or of Trent? There mightst thou find some elegant retreat, some hireling senator's deserted seat, and stretch thy prospects over the smiling land for less than rent the 10 dungeons of the Strand. There prune thy walks, a venal lord, there every bush with nature's music rings, and every breeze bears health upon its wings. On all thy hours security shall smile, and bless thy evening walks and morning toil. Thales says that all these people have their astronomy over theatre and the country, and nothing affects them. They want to rule all the parts, even the rivers. And the pensioners only want to make the superiors happy, and they don't want to do anything for the London city. And Thales says that he will go to the countryside where he does not have to care about these people, and he will live his life there happily, and he will be his own ruler. And under his own rules, he will feel a sense of security. And the speaker says that he will do whatever he wants to do there. And there he can live and listen to the nature's endless music. Moving on, prepare for death. If here at night you roam and sign your will before you sup from home, some fiery fop with new commission vain who sleeps on brambles till he kills his man. Some frolic drunkard, reeling from a feast, provokes a broil and stabs you for a jest. Yet even those heroes, mischievously gay, lords of the street and terrors of the way, flushed as they are with folly, youth, and wine, their prudent insults to the poor confine. Afar they mark the flambeau's bright approach, and shun the shining train, the gold and golden coach. So the speaker wants to stay far away from the follies of people. According to him, in London, some people taunt him, and the people who present themselves as heroes are the real stabbers. They seem to be the lords of the streets. They terrorize the people and kill others for the sake of money. These people seem like they are coming with light, but the speaker advises his friend not to trust their beguilement. They are not going to give him any blessings, so as soon as he sees them, he must close his door and go inside. So the speaker says, in vain these dangers past, your doors you close and hope the balmy blessings of repose. Cruel with guilt and daring with despair, the midnight murderers burst their faithless bar, invades the sacred hour of silent rest, and plants unseen a dagger in your breast. So these rulers are cruel and they have no sense of guilt. And they are like midnight murderers. And these men can kill one anytime, even at one's funeral. And they will behave like nothing happened. So they can do anything to raise votes and do nothing else. And what they are doing is sinking the country back. And they do nothing but to visit their mistresses. Moving on, he says, scarce can our fears such crowds at Tyburn die, with hemp the gallows and the fleet supply. Propose your schemes, ye centurion band, those ways and means support the sinking land. Lest ropes be wanting in tempting spring, to rig another convoy for the king. In this section, Johnson refers to Tyburn, that is a place of execution situated at the outskirts of London. And Johnson satirizes King George II to visit his mistress Emily von Belmadon. A single jail in Alfred's golden reign could half the nation's criminals contain. Fair justice then, without constraint adored, sustained the balance but resigned the sword. No spies were paid, no special juries known. Blessed age, but how different from our own. So there was a time when King Alfred the Great used to rule this place, and when this crime rate was low. A single jail could hold half the criminals, and he did fair justice. And there was no hypocrite, and he did not pay anyone to obey him. And these special juries were not there in Alfred's time. The wealthiest citizens are now part of this special jury, which was not there in the time of King Alfred. Much could I add, but see the boat at hand, the tides retiring, calls me from land. Farewell, when youth and health and fortune spent, thou fliest for refuge to the wildest of Kent. Tired like me with follies and with crimes, in angry numbers want succeeding times. Then shall thy friend, nor thou reuse his aid, still foe to vice forsake his Cumbrian shade. In virtue's cause once more exert his rage, thy satire point and animate thy page. So Thales wants to say many things, but his boat arrives and he tells farewell. In the last section, Thales tells his friend that he is now going to the rustic Kent, where now he will find refuge. And this wild of Kent is the wild wooded area in Sussex and Surrey. So here the poem comes to an end. So we see that here Johnson satirizes the corruption and the government of London. He talks about how people take bribes and do nothing for the commoners. And he also talks about the difficult condition the common people are in. So I hope that this video is helpful for you to understand this poem, and if you want to have more videos like this, please keep an eye on my channel. Thank you. Bye bye.